The bottle shattered against the brick wall of the dive bar, shards exploding like my heart had just done, and I watched the amber liquid bleed into the gutter like the lies he'd fed me for months. You were nothing but a fucking wager. Jackson, $50 says I could turn the shy barista into my bitch by homecoming. Ryan's voice slurred from the shadows, his buddies howling like wolves in heat, their laughter slicing deeper than any knife. I stood there, fists clenched, tasting blood from where I'd bitten my lip to keep from screaming, realizing in that neon-lit hellhole on the edge of Brooklyn that love, the kind I'd chased like a lifeline, was just another rigged game in this godforsaken city. That night, the rain came down in sheets, turning the streets into rivers of regret, and I stumbled home to my cramped Astoria apartment, the kind with peeling wallpaper and a view of the elevated train rattling like my fractured nerves. New York had always been my escape, a fresh start after Mom's slow fade from cancer back in Ohio, leaving me with nothing but a shoebox of Polaroids and a trust fund that barely covered rent. At 25, I was supposed to be building something, a life, a legacy that proved I wasn't the invisible kid who'd hidden his crushes in high school lockers. Instead, I'd poured every shift at that hipster coffee joint into Ryan Caldwell, the golden boy from the finance bros table, with his easy grin and promises whispered over cold brews. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself in the rear view of denial. He'd slide into the shop on Wall Street lunch rushes, all crisp Oxford shirts and cologne that smelled like money and mischief, ordering a flat white with that wink that made my stomach flip. "You're too pretty to be slinging Joe all day, Jex," he'd say, leaning on the counter like he owned the place, and me. I laughed it off at first, blushing under my apron, but he kept coming back, upgrading from small talk to late-night texts. "Missed your smile today. Meet me at the Rusty Nail after shift?" How could I say no? In a city that chewed up dreamers like gum, Ryan felt like the jackpot, a 28-year-old trader with a loft in Dumbo, abs you could grate cheese on, and eyes that promised forever. Our first date was fireworks on the 4th. Literally, he dragged me to the East River, a picnic of lobster rolls and cheap rose, his hand finding mine as the skyline erupted in red, and blue. "You're different, Jackson," he murmured, lips brushing my ear, fireworks reflecting in his gaze like stars we'd steal. "Not like these shallow assholes. You see me." Good. I wanted to believe him. That night, back in his loft with exposed brick and king-sized everything, he undressed me slowly, mapping my skin with kisses that tasted like salt and surrender. "I love how you tremble," he whispered, his fingers tracing the tattoo over my heart, the one I'd gotten on my 21st. A defiant splash of color against the gray of coming out to a family that pretended it never happened. We made love until dawn, bodies tangled in sheets that smelled like him, and I fell hard, harder than I'd ever allowed myself before. Weeks blurred into a montage of stolen moments, lazy Sundays in bed binging Queer as Folk reruns, his head on my chest as we debated if Brian Kinney was a villain or a visionary, rooftop parties in Bushwick where he'd pull me close during indie sets, whispering filthy nothings that made me forget the world, even the quiet ones, like grocery runs in Whole Foods where he'd sneak kale into the cart just to watch me pout. Ryan got me, really got me, the way no one had since Dad walked out when I was 10, leaving Mom to raise me on diner shifts and Disney dreams. He knew my fears, the gnawing worry that I'd end up alone in this concrete jungle. Just another ghost haunting Grinder ghosts. "You're my anchor, babe," he'd say, pulling me into hugs that felt like home. We're building this together. But cracks spiderwebbed in. Subtle at first. Like the way he'd dodge introducing me to his crew from Goldman Sachs. Calling them toxic bros, with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Or the nights he'd vanish into work calls that stretched till 3 a.m. Phone face down on the nightstand. I chalked it up to the grind. New York 8 souls for breakfast? Right? Doubt gnawed at me during my solo shifts. Steaming oat milk while replaying his texts. Busy tonight? Rain check? Love you. That word was our North Star. Or so I thought. The truth crashed down on a sticky September Friday. The kind where humidity clings like regret. I'd surprised him at the Rusty Nail. His favorite dive with sticky floors and a jukebox stuck on Springsteen. Carrying a 6-pack of his IPA as a peace offering after a fight about him flaking on my birthday dinner. The bar was packed with finance wolves in untucked polos. Shots flowing like alibis. I spotted Ryan at the corner booth. Back to me. His laugh booming over the din. Heart swelling stupidly. I wove through the crowd. Only to freeze as his voice cut through. Dude. You owe me 50, told you I'd bag the twink barista by Labor Day. Jackson's so fucking easy. Eats up every line like it's gospel. The bottle slipped from my fingers then. The shatter echoing my soul fracturing. His buddies erupted, high fives. Backslaps. One asshole mimicking my blush with exaggerated simpers. Ryan turned. Face paling like curdled milk. Mouth opening in that slow-motion horror of caught thieves. Wait, it's not. But I was already bolting. Glass crunching under my sneakers. Rain hitting my face like accusations as I burst into the storm-slicked street. I didn't remember the walk home. Just the blur of taillights and thunder rumbling like the betrayal in my gut. Collapsing onto my futon. I scrolled through our texts. Each I love you now poison barbs. The tattoo over my heart burned. A mocking emblem of trust tattooed in folly. How many times had he texted those words while placing bets? $50. I was worth 50 goddamn bucks in his world of stock ticks and scotch neat. Sobs racked me. Ugly and unchecked. The kind that hollow you out until you're just echoes. By midnight, the pain twisted into something sharper, rage. Maybe. Or the numb prelude to breaking. I grabbed my keys, vision tunneling, and headed back out into the deluge. Not sure if I wanted to fight him or fade away. The collision came at the corner of Steinway and 30th. A yellow cab hydroplaning through a puddle the size of my shattered dreams. I stepped off the curb without looking. Phone in hand mid-dial to a friend who'd ghosted me months ago. And the world exploded in horns and screeching tires. Impact, a glancing blow. But enough to send me sprawling. Hip cracking against asphalt. Head bouncing off the grate. Pain bloomed hot and immediate. Sirens wailing distant as black spots danced in my vision. Last thought before the void, this is what love costs. $50 and a lifetime of scars. I woke to the sterile beep of monitors and the faint tang of antiseptic. Eyelids fluttering against fluorescent glare that felt like judgment from above. My body was a map of aches, bruised ribs taped tight. Hip throbbing under a fresh cast. For drip feeding mercy into my veins. Hospital room in Elmhurst. The sign on the door read, a stone's throw from my apartment but worlds away from the life I'd torched. Nurses bustled in the hall. Voices muffled through the curtain. But it was the man who pulled it back that snagged my fractured attention. Tall, broad-shouldered in scrubs the color of faded ocean. With warm brown skin and eyes like polished mahogany that held no pity. Only quiet command. "Easy there, Jackson," he said. Voice low and steady, like gravel wrapped in velvet. Checking the chart at my bedside without crowding me. "I'm Elias, your night nurse. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the hip saying?" His smile was small, crooked, the kind that crinkled the corners of his eyes without demanding anything in return. Mid-30s? Maybe, with close-cropped curls threaded silver at the temples, and forearms corded from years of lifting more than charts, patience worlds. Probably. I mumbled a 7, throat raw from intubation. But he nodded like it was gospel, adjusting the morphine drip with hands that moved like they knew sorrow's weight. Elias became my anchor those first fog-shrouded days, gliding in every 4 hours like clockwork, his presence a balm against the isolation gnawing at me. No visitors trickled in, not Mom's ghost. Not the friends who'd scattered like leaves in a gale. And certainly not Ryan, whose silence screamed louder than any apology. Elias didn't pry, but he listened when the dam broke on night 2. Painkillers loosening my tongue as I spilled the bet. The bar. The cab that fate flung like a punctuation mark. $50, I choked out, staring at the ceiling tiles like they held answers. I thought he saw me. You know, the real me, the one who cries at Brokeback Mountain reruns and dreams of a house with a yard someday. But I was just entertainment. He paused, gloved hand hovering over my pulse ox, then sat on the stool, elbows on knees, meeting my gaze head-on. "Bets are for poker tables and bad decisions, Jackson. Not hearts. You're more than a payout, you're the guy who survived a hit and run and woke up fighting." That's not nothing. His words landed soft but sure. No platitudes, just truth carved from experience. I learned bits of him in fragments. Queens native, Haitian roots laced with Brooklyn grit. Nursing school after his brother OD'd in the opioid wave. A quiet queer man who'd buried a partner to AIDS back when treatments were prayers. Love's not a transaction, he'd say over lukewarm jello, peeling the lid with a gentleness that made my chest ache. It's showing up when the world's checked out. Discharge came too soon. A Thursday haze of paperwork and a crutch that hobbled my pride more than my gait. Elias walked me to the cab, duffel slung over his shoulder, insisting on the assist. "Text if the pain spikes," he said, slipping a card into my palm, his number scrawled under the hospital logo. No pretense. "Or if you just need someone to call bullshit on the X." I laughed. Brittle but real. The first crack of light in weeks. Back in my apartment, the silence roared. Ryan's ghost in every corner, a forgotten hoodie in the closet, texts unread on my phone. I deleted them all, fingers trembling, then stared at Elias's card till dawn, wondering if reaching out was bravery or desperation. Our first coffee, decaf, hospital rules be damned, was at a hole in the wall on Ditmars. Him in civvies, faded Levi's hugging thighs built for marathons. A Henley stretching over a chest that spoke of quiet strength. He talked shop, war stories from the the kid with the broken arm from a skate fail who'd drawn him a "thank you Batman," while I nursed my crutches propped like sentinels. "What's your poison outside, Scrubs?" Best. Emboldened by the way his laugh rumbled low. Turned out Elias was a jazz fiend, vinyl hunts in Greenpoint, and a volunteer at the Ollie Forney Center, sheltering queer youth tossed like trash by families who'd sworn, "Love the sinner, hate the sin." "Seen too many Jacksons come through broken," he said, eyes darkening. Figured I'd stick around to glue some pieces back. We fell into rhythm. Easy as breathing. Texts evolving from check-ins to memes. Him sending cat videos with captions like "This is you post-morphine." Me firing back photos of my latest barista blunder. Foam art gone rogue. Dinners followed. Takeout Thai in his walk-up off Roosevelt Avenue. A space bursting with life, bookshelves groaning under Baldwin and Lord. A turntable spinning Coltrane like a heartbeat. No rush. No bets. Elias moved deliberate. Hands brushing mine over fortune cookies. Kisses tasting like ginger and possibility when they finally came. Slow and searching on his worn couch one rain-lashed evening. "Tell me if it's too much," he murmured against my lips, pulling back to scan my face like I was the chart that mattered. I want this right. But right didn't erase the ghosts. Ryan resurfaced like a bad sequel. A drunk dial at 2 a.m. 2 weeks post-discharge. "Jax? Baby. I fucked up." It was the booze talking. "Come back. Let me make it good." I hung up, heart hammering. But the call cracked something open. Insecurity flooding back like high tide. What if Elias pitied me? The broken bird he'd patched? I pulled away, canceling plans with flimsy excuses, shifts, headaches, until he showed at my door. Rain-soaked and resolute. A brown paper bag of pupusas in hand. "Talk to me, Jackson. Don't ghost the guy who's half in love with your stubborn ass." We talked till the storm broke. Me unraveling the fear that I was unlovable. A punchline waiting to drop. Elias listened, then cupped my face, thumb tracing my jaw. "You're not a bet. Or a fix-it project. You're Jackson, the one who makes me laugh till my sides hurt. Who sees the world in colors I forgot existed. If you let me, I'll show you every day." His kiss then was fire and forgiveness. Bodies aligning on my futon in a dance of rediscovery. His touch mapping scars with reverence. Whispering my name like a vow. For the first time, love felt like soil, fertile, waiting for roots. Yet New York, that fickle bitch, had more twists. My boss at the shop, a closeted queen named Marty with a heart of fool's gold, overheard whispers of my drama and cut my hours, muttering about distractions. Rent loomed like a guillotine, and Ryan, emboldened by my silence, started lurking, flowers at the door. Notes slipped under like serpents' tongues. We were real once. Don't throw it away for some nurse. Elias found one, crumpling it with a jaw so tight I feared it'd crack. "He doesn't get to rewrite your worth," he growled. But doubt seeded in me. A weed choking the bloom. Autumn deepened, leaves carpeting Astoria sidewalks in crimson regret, mirroring the slow bleed of my resolve. Elias and I carved out stolen sanctuaries amid the chaos, mornings tangled in his sheets. His breath warm on my neck as sunlight slanted through blinds. Jazz murmuring from the nightstand radio like a lover's secret. He'd trace my tattoos with fingertips calloused from 4 lines. Murmuring stories of Haiti, grandmother's proverbs over plantains. Ocean waves crashing like freedom's roar. "You're my calm in the storm, Jex," he'd say. Voice husky with sleep. And I'd believe him, body arching into his as we chased dawn's fragile peace. But Ryan's shadow lengthened, a specter refusing exorcism. He escalated from notes to ambushes, cornering me outside the shop one crisp October noon. All polished charm and pleading eyes. Armani suit rumpled like his excuses. I was wasted. Jax, those idiots egged me on. But us? That was real. Remember the fireworks? The way you fit against me? His hand grazed my arm. Electric with memory. And for a heartbeat, I wavered, the pull of the familiar. The devil I knew. Go to hell, I spat. Wrenching free. But the encounter lingered. A bruise blooming under my skin. Elias sensed the shift that night over candlelit ramen in his kitchen. Chopsticks pausing midair. Talk, he prompted. No judgment. Just that steady gaze that unraveled me. I confessed the runnin', the toxic tug. And he nodded, setting his bowl down with deliberate calm. He's a habit, not a home. But if you're questioning us, the sentence hung, unspoken fear flickering in his eyes, the vulnerability of a man who'd lost before. I reached across, lacing fingers with his. It's us I'm scared of screwing up. You're too good, Elias. What if I drag you down? He pulled me into his lap then, strong arms encircling like fortresses. Then we rise together. No drags. No downs, just us. Building. We tried. Therapy sessions squeezed between shifts. Me unpacking mom's death and dad's abandonment with a counselor who smelled like patchouli and possibility. Elias opening up about his ex. Marks. Whose AIDS battle had carved canyons in his soul, leaving him wary of love's sharp edges. I swore off it after, he admitted one night. Stars winking through his fire escape. Too much loss. Then you crashed into my ward, literally, and here we are. Vulnerability bonded us deeper. Nights turning to explorations, his body a landscape of strength and softness. Dark skin glowing under lamplight as I learned him, the constellation of freckles across his collarbone. The way he gasped my name like prayer. Conflict crested at the annual Pride after-party in the village. A whirlwind of glitter and grind where New York's queer underbelly pulsed raw. Elias had dragged me, promising a night of unfiltered joy. His hand firm in mine amid the throng of drag queens lip-syncing Gaga and go-go boys glistening under strobes. Ryan was there. Of course, fate's cruel jester, flanked by his pack. Eyes locking on me across the dance floor like heat-seeking missiles. He sauntered over during a lull. Drink in hand. Smirk laced with venom. Slumming it with the help now. Chicks? Careful, he'll pump you full of advice instead of fun. Elias stiffened beside me, but I stepped forward. Fire in my veins. Fuck off, Ryan. You lost your bet. Now lose the obsession. The crowd parted, murmurs rippling, but Ryan laughed, bitter and brittle. Bet? That was a joke. But this, he jerked his chin at Elias. Pity fuck doesn't suit you, baby. Come home. The slap echoed, my palm connecting with his cheek. The sting mine as much as his. Shock rippling through us both. Security swarmed, bouncing him out amid catcalls. But the damage festered, Elias quiet in the cab ride home. Jaw set like concrete. You didn't have to hit him, he said finally, staring out at blurred lights. Not for me. Hurt laced his tone, not anger, but the echo of old wounds. The fear that violence shadowed love like a curse. I deflated. Crutches forgotten in the adrenaline crash. I know. But he made you sound disposable. Like what we have is less. Elias turned then, hand cupping my cheek, thumb brushing the tear I hadn't noticed. Nothing about us is less. But violence? Statistics? I've seen it shatter families. Promise me, we fight with words, not fists. The promise hung heavy as winter's approach. Frost etching windows like accusations. Work dried up further. Marty's efficiency cuts, a euphemism for homophobia, and bills piled like snowdrifts. Elias offered his spare room. No strings. Just practicality, but pride barbed my tongue. I'm not your charity case, I snapped one evening. His takeout congealing on the counter. He recoiled, eyes flashing rare steel. Charity? This is partnership. Jackson. Or are you still running from real? The fight escalated. Words weaponized, my insecurities lashing out. His patience fraying under the weight of carrying us both. Doors slammed. Silence stretched. And for 3 days, we orbited like wary planets. Text curt. Touches absent. Reconciliation came fractured. A midnight knock on my door. Elias. Bundled in wool. Takeout steaming in the chill. I hate fighting you, he said. Stepping inside without invitation. Setting the bag down like an olive branch. But I love loving you more. Teach me to trust this won't break us. We talked till gray light bled dawn. Apologies weaving with admissions. My fear of dependency rooted in Dad's ghost. His and Marcus's fade. Making up was slow. Reverent kisses tasting of salt and second chances. Bodies reaffirming vows in the quiet of my bed. Yet the undercurrent swirled darker. Ryan's final gambit arrived via email. A week before Thanksgiving, screenshots of our old texts. Twisted into a narrative of mutual madness. Forwarded to my boss. My landlord. Even the Ollie Forney Center where Elias volunteered. Unstable. Violent. Keep clear. The betrayal's echo chamber amplified. Whispers at the shop turning to stares. A eviction notice citing disturbances. Panic clawed me, New York? My hard-won haven. Cracking under the weight. Elias found me curled on the fire escape. Hyperventilating into the void. He's trying to erase you, he said. Pulling me inside. Voice thundersoft. But we rewrite the story. Together. We plotted quietly, job hunts for me at queer-owned cafes in Williamsburg. Legal aid from a pride lawyer friend to counter the smears. But the emotional toll carved deep, nights where doubt whispered louder than Coltrane. Elias's shifts leaving me alone with the what-ifs. What if we can't outrun this? I murmured one evening. His head in my lap as rain pattered the pane. He tilted up, eyes fierce with that unyielding light. Then we walk through it, hand in hand. Love isn't dodging storms, it's dancing in the downpour. Thanksgiving dawn brittle. The city shrouded in fog that mirrored the haze in my heart. But Elias turned it sacred, a potluck at the center. Tables groaning under mac and cheese casseroles and stories heavier than pie. I manned the kitchen. Crutches swapped for a slight limp. Serving slices to kids with eyes too old for their faces. Runaways like the boy I might have been. If Ohio's cornfields hadn't caged me. Elias moved among them like a shepherd. Kneeling to hear tales of foster fails and first crushes. His laugh a lighthouse in their storms. Watching him, something shifted. Love not as possession, but purpose, the quiet revolution of showing up. Ryan's poison lingered, though a slow venom. The lawyer's cease and desist bought breathing room. But the damage etched scars, my reflection in the mirror gaunt with worry. Elias's smile strained after double shifts. We clashed again mid-December. Snow blanketing rooftops like unspoken grudges. I'd landed a gig at a cozy spot in Park Slope, queer baristas brewing empowerment one pour at a time, but the commute drained me. Tempers flaring over forgotten laundry and unspoken fears. "You're pulling away," he accused one night. Voice cracking over cold pizza. Like I'm the next Ryan. The words gutted me. Raw and real. "No, I'm terrified of losing you to this mess I dragged in." The fight peaked in tears and truths. Me admitting the bet's echo convinced me I was toxic. Him confessing the center's director had pulled him aside. Whispers of entanglements threatening his role. "They think you're a liability," he said. Shoulders slumping under the weight. "But fuck them, you're my everything." We collapsed into each other then. Apologies dissolving in the heat of reconnection. Bodies of frantic affirmation against the cold. His touch was desperate, mapping me like lost territory. Whispers of stay, mingling with gasps as we shattered and reformed under the duvet's shelter. Crisis crested New Year's Eve. The ball dropped a ticking bomb. Ryan cornered Elias outside the center after a youth vigil, bold. Backed by two goons from his frat boy firm. "Tell your little fixer-upper to back off," he snarled. Breath reeking of bourbon. Shoving Elias against the brick. Or these pics of his bar fight go viral, tag every queer feed in the city. Elias held steady. Voice even as steel. Touch him again. And it's assault charges. Not screenshots. But the scuffle left bruises. Elias's knuckles split. Ryan's nose streaming red, cops called. Statements taken in the fluorescent chill of the precinct. I met him there at 3 a.m. Coffee trembling in my grip. Heart a war drum. "You fought for me," I whispered in the waiting room, bandaging his hand with stolen gauze. He winced. Then grinned through the pain. "Always will." Bets break, real love bruises but doesn't bend. Charges stuck, harassment? The lawyer crowed, but the toll mounted, media snippets in local rags twisting it into Wall Street Scion versus. Barista drama, painting me the villain, Elias the enabler. Protests erupted at the center. Pickets decrying indoctrination, forcing Elias to choose, job or us. He chose us. Resignation letter typed with steady hands. But the loss carved hollows under his eyes. 20 years stitching wounds. And they discard me for loving right, he muttered over dawn coffee. City awakening to fireworks echo. Rage boiled in me, not at him, but the world that weaponized love. We'll build something new, I vowed, pulling him close. A life where we're not apologies. Job offers trickled, him at a clinic in Harlem. Me promoted at the Slope shop to assistant manager. Pride swelling like yeast in dough. Spring unfurled tentative. Cherry blossoms dusting the high line like confetti for survivors. We moved into a one-bedroom in Bed-Stuy. Walls echoing with laughter instead of lies. Elias's jazz mingling with my podcasts on queer history. Nights of takeout and tangled limbs forging futures. Ryan faded to a footnote. Plea deal and therapy mandated. His texts bouncing into void. But the true climax came internal, my coming out sequel. A letter to Mom's old friends back home. Words I choked on for years. I love a man who taught me love's not a game, it's grace. Responses trickled, some silence, some embraces, and in the replies, I found absolution. One June evening, under a canopy of fireflies in Prospect Park, Elias dropped to one knee, not with rings, but a vinyl of Kind of Blue. Coltrane's sax a serenade to our scars. Marry me, Jackson, not in spite of the breaks, but because of how we mended. Tears blurred the stars. My yes a whisper turned roar. Bodies colliding in joy that drowned old ghosts. We wed in a backyard affair that fall, queer choir belting at last. Kids from the centers scattering petals like spells, vows exchanged under an arch of rainbow flags. Mine etched fresh over my heart, Elias. Anchor. Years later, in a brownstone with a yard blooming wild, I'd catch Elias watching me over coffee, that crooked smile unchanged. Worth more than $50, Atis? And he'd pull me close, murmuring against my temple, priceless. Every damn day, in America's fractured mosaic, we'd carved our corner, not flawless, but fiercely ours, a testament that love, the real kind, isn't won on bets or battles, but built on the bones of betrayal, rising human, and unapologetic.